So I was thinking back when I first started my business, and I didn't really know what I was doing or the steps I needed to take to be successful, or to even like what were the rules I even needed to pay attention to in order to make sure that I was, covered legally and with accounting and taxes and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go back to some basics. And hopefully you're already doing most of these things, but if you're not, this is a great time, anytime really, in your business. It's, better if you can get these dialed in early on in your business. You'll save yourself some headaches and frustration later, but certainly anytime is good to have all these in place. So, 6 things you should do when first starting your design business to save you frustration and time later. Now, just to let you know, this list doesn't cover everything that might be on the important list when you start a business. But these are the 6 things I feel like are really important to handle as early on as you can once you start taking clients and running projects and getting your business going. This is going to help you stay organized in your business and on track. And, once I got all these things in line, things were so much easier for me down the road. So, as I said, this is not an exhaustive list. There's probably other things you'll need, but these are the 6 that really stand out to me. So, and to let you know, this is for the United States. Okay, this fulfills, legal and tax requirements in the US. If you're in another country, obviously, you might need to do a little research and figure out what requirements your country has. So number 1, protect yourself by getting your legal stuff in order. Okay, for most of us, this is as simple as registering a business name as a sole proprietor. However, make sure you check with your city and state, and make sure you check for specific requirements. In some cities, you're also required to have some type of commercial license, depending on how you're working. So just check into that with your city. I also suggest you create a master W-9 at the beginning of each year so that it's just signed and ready to go when clients ask for it during tax season. As soon as you onboard a new client, just send in that W-9 along with your contract and welcome information. Also consider getting insurance to protect your business. Now, most of us probably don't need this, but we have just a general liability policy for our business, and it's actually not that expensive. It's a yearly cost, and it just, obviously protects us if anything comes up. Number 2, create a contract and use it for every project. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Anytime you enter into business with anyone, you want to have something in writing. Even if early on that happens to be in an email, that's fine, but really a contract is the proper way to do it, and both parties sign it, so you're both agreeing to the terms there. This will protect you if you ever run into a case where you're squabbling over payment, or what services were rendered, or what services were actually included with the work you agreed to do. It's all laid out in the contract. Number 3, track your hours diligently, and I mean not just for the actual project work you're doing, but track your hours for everything, including how much time you spend project managing, like emails, phone calls. Keep track of all that time, planning any non-specific job tasks even in your business. Now, this sounds like a lot, and here's why you do this. This gives you a realistic idea of how much time you actually spend doing all the different tasks required in your business. This is super helpful to look back and say, okay, I spent 4 hours on bookkeeping last week. It might be time to consider getting some help with this. Or it's also really helpful as you start running, similar types of projects, like a business card, for example. After you do a few and you've kept track of your time, you're going to see really quickly about how much time it takes you, and you'll know. It'll just help you in your estimating and pricing down the road, and it also helps you budget your time. So if you know you have 10 business cards designed to do in a month, which that's kind of crazy, but if you did, it gives you a place to kind of plug things in and know how much time it's going to take. Realistically, we have a variety of projects we're doing all at once. So the more time you can, or the way, if you can track that time for each type of project, you're going to be further ahead when you go to estimate those projects. And then, certain amounts of admin time go into all of those projects. So track your time. Just, jot it down on a list if that's the easiest method for you. Write down the specific task you did, and this can be really brief. Say, emails to whatever client on whatever date, and it took me this long. Just keep track of that for a good few months, and then you're going to start to see some patterns, and it'll be helpful data for you in your business as you go forward. So that was kind of wordy there, but I do really strongly believe this is super important, so I don't want you to overlook it. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat today. Okay, number 4, get as much in writing as you can while working through your projects and especially your client interactions, okay? This is easy to do in emails, and this is how I prefer to do it, but even if you do a lot of business on the phone, what you can do is as soon as you hang up the phone, type up a few quick notes, the brief points from the meeting, so that you have it in writing. You can even share those notes with your client and say, hey, here's what we talked about in the call. Just want to make sure this all is agreeable to you, just to make sure no wires got crossed, there weren't any misunderstandings. And as you get busier, this will help you out so much, since you won't be able to actually keep track of all these details in your head. And why would you want to? Have it all in writing as much as you can. Okay? All right. Keep great records, number 5. So this includes everything you spend on your business, and you should start with a separate business checking account, and a separate credit card is also a good idea, just to keep all of that separate from your personal accounting. And I think this is probably obvious to most of us, but just in case, the reason you want to do that is mainly for taxes, and also it just makes your accounting of your expenses and your income a whole lot easier if you've got all your business stuff in one bucket, all your personal stuff in another bucket. Don't intermingle the two, or you've got a paperwork nightmare on your hands later, okay? Another piece of keeping great records is track mileage on your vehicle. And now this is specific for the United States again, so check in your own country. But in the United States, you can write off mileage if you go to meetings, or if you run to the bank, or if you actually go shopping for office supplies. That all counts, okay? So keep track of all those miles. We just keep a little log in our vehicle and write down our start and end mileage, and what, a quick note about what it was for, if it was a meeting or shopping or bank or whatever. This can be also simple if you want to track it in an Excel spreadsheet. And that brings me to my next point: get your bookkeeping set up. Now, to start out, this can be super simple in an Excel spreadsheet, or if you have, accounting software on your computer, like QuickBooks or something like that, that obviously is even better. But I want you to know you don't need to spend a bunch of money on these extra accounting programs at first. The main thing is to just make sure it's recorded somehow. Okay, so in an Excel spreadsheet is pretty ideal. You want to log all of your income, all of your expenses, any other things that you spent on your business, whether it's for a client or just for your business in general. And eventually, when you find you're making consistent income and you're feeling comfortable, you can start investing in something like, QuickBooks Online, for example, is kind of an expensive one. There are others that are cheap. I believe Wave.com is still a free option out there. I didn't check that before I recorded this, but check into that, Wave.com. They used to have a completely free option for bookkeeping online, so check into that. So that's pretty much it for keeping great records. Number 6, keep expenses and overhead down when starting. I touched on that a little bit with, mentioning QuickBooks. When you're first starting, your income might seem pretty up and down. It might feel a little bit insecure. And luckily with, running a service business, we don't have a ton of overhead, or we don't need to have a ton of overhead. We don't have employees right away. We don't necessarily need to go out and rent an office space. We can work from home, and all of that is great. That keeps our expenses and overhead down. So I would say, the temptation might come though to, buy the next shiny thing you see, or, get that new program or that new app or that new tool. Just really, really scrutinize all of that at first. Maybe even set yourself a budget for the month or the year on what you can actually afford to spend on that kind of stuff. So the goal now is to keep as much money in your pocket as possible, so you have that buffer built up, and so you have money to work with in your business. So don't get caught up and lured into all the shiny things out there, or don't feel like you have to just invest in all these things because others tell you you should, right? A good example of that is people starting a business and immediately spending $3,000 or $4,000 on a big fancy website. Well, you probably don't need that right away. So just be mindful of keeping your expenses and overhead down. There's a lot of great information, again, if you're in the U.S., on the website SBAgov. That stands for Small Business Administration.gov. There's tons of great information on that government website just about how to get started in business, the kind of more of the legal and things that you need to do to make sure that you're all good. So I just want to point out too, I went over six things here, and it can sound like a lot at first, but actually some of these are pretty easy to put into place. They shouldn't take you a whole lot of time, but don't feel overwhelmed by this either. Just pick one, put it on your calendar. Hey, I'm going to get my name registered today, right? Or next week, or whenever you decide you have room in your calendar. Just work through it, bit by bit, piece by piece, just like anything. And then there's, of course, tons of other things you can do to start a business, things at the end that you might want to add to the list. But I really believe these are the 6 core things that you should focus on now. So I hope that was helpful. As always, let me know if you have any questions, and I wish you a wonderful day.